We gotta turn the lights on here. There it is. Welcome everybody to the Onward VR Master League. Season 1, Week 7. My name's NightFiree with 2 E's. Jumping into a matchup here this afternoon between Craw versus Gullible Man. If you are just tuning in, we appreciate you stopping by. Gonna give the players the go-ahead to start, and then we should be ready to dive into the action. Was uncertain we'd be able to tune in to this matchup here this afternoon, so happy to have it on the broadcast. Almost looked like we weren't going to have some Blaston here, but we got it. And let me just swap the names up at the top so that they're accurate with our matchup here between Gullible Man on the blue side and Craw on the purple. I'll go ahead and give Craw the go. And we should be hopping in to round 1 of our first game here between these two. Go ahead and make sure I have the accurate stream title as well. We got to update that.
3, 2, 1, blast on.
We are into the action here for round number 1 on game 1 out the gate. We're seeing the Novas coming in from Craw and not denying too much of that ellipse bullet hell from hitting Craw up through the center. Craw does do a little bit of damage as they force Gullible into some positions, and you can see they're trying to get some of that zoning going on here. Both sides doing a good job of zoning. Denial there by the Nova and the shield from Craw to try and shut down that bullet hell push. But now, what does the assault look like coming at Gullible Man? That nade ends up going just a touch wide. The Tundra not quite connecting, albeit that would be big damage, and almost like seemingly distracted Craw attacks with the hammer, the Raptor Wildcat combo. It seems to be their sort of main staple in terms of the offense. Obviously, the Hurricane also used as an element to try and force Gullible up to the front part or the back part of their zone as it detonates at high and comes down low. That's been a good bit of zoning business coming in from the likes of Gullible. That Majestic nade really forcing Craw into a tough position, and now Gullible managing to take round 1 off of good use and good zoning coming in.
2, 1, blast on.
Oh, we got to do a quick reset of the scores as well. Apologies on that, as Gullible Man hasn't taken a game yet, but could very well change here as we do see the Hurricane coming in from both sides. A bit of a different loadout, though, as the Hurricane there slow rolls down into Craw. Craw does take some damage from that slow-falling Hurricane, but in the meanwhile is able to do back some damage to Gullible. Still, with Gullible in the lead here, though, that Nova nade really doing, or excuse me, that Majestic nade really doing a lot to zone out Craw. And, the Viper Ellipse, the Tundra, 2 big damage dealers for Gullible, so they really could chip away at Craw at any moment now. Craw has to be careful, has to try and capitalize on the moments when they can zone Gullible Man and properly hit them with that bullet hell spread. And you can see Craw doing their best to set up a nice line of defense almost with those Novas, and now as the Novas come, forcing a little bit of shield play from Gullible to deny, forcing them to the bottom half of the zone where the Wildcat can connect. Hammer nade hits on the edge, and it looks like Craw very well could chip away here, could potentially scoop themselves up around in our first game. Again, good use of that Nova to try and deny the connection of a lot of this onslaught set up by Gullible Man. Gullible's then trying to thread in the Tundra and Viper Ellipse shots between all of that bullet hell, but there just doesn't seem to be too much of an opportunity for that. Again, with the shield, the Nova really doing a good job of denying Gullible Man the setup. As that hammer nade does get redirected, a nice job of shutting that down. A risky play to take, as if you don't get your that hammer nade, it detonates onto your hand and does significant damage, but here comes the Viper Ellipse the Viper Ellipse Tundra combo. None of that connecting onto Craw. Any one of those bullets could have ended the round and gotten Gullible game 1, but Gullible's not out of the woods just yet. He has a Nova coming that's doing a good job of shielding some of those bullets from impacting and also preventing Gullible from setting up a full assault onto Craw. And there you can see the attempt was coming in. Majestic nade was going to be going out along with the Tundra, but Craw ends up chipping away on damage done. Gets themselves a nice little bit of a tie game here for match number 1. Shout out to those folks that have been jumping in here for this game. We do appreciate you seeing you stopping in, and certainly is a high-tier game. Global Man and Craw, you can see as they're ranked. They've been putting in the time to the game. They've definitely got experience with their denial of the nades, the zoning with the Nova and the Majestic nade from both sides, really. So fun to see so far in this matchup. Nice, even pair. And these two really trying to duke it out. And, ooh, an interesting setup from Craw. They're trying to force the Nova over to that side as they stand onto the far right of their arena. And then once it came, they just managed to shift over and almost gain themselves some ground by having the Nova maybe a little bit farther than it should have been. And almost a jump there to try and get rid of some of those Hurricanes with that Nova. Can't quite get them, but does zone Gullible nicely. That's what those Novas have really been doing. They've been forcing Gullible to duck underneath them because Gullible has really limited means of getting rid of these Novas, especially because they are the health Nova, so they're thick. They take a lot of damage. You can see 2 Tundra shots from Gullible just to get rid of them so that they don't have to duck. That Viper lip shot not quite connecting. Good denial of that hammer nade with the shield. Still, though, can't hit with these Viper nade shots. He needs to properly zone Craw so that they can push them into a spot where it's going to be easier to connect with one of those Viper ellipse bullets. The Tundra, the same thing. Craw's doing a good job of avoiding those Tundra shots, and here comes the Wildcat Assault that chips away at Gullible even more. You can see the Hurricane setup coming in from Gullible, likely to go for the attack here, but Craw's doing a great job of denying the setup from Gullible, using the Nova to get rid of Hurricanes, to get rid of nade attempts, using it to also zone Gullible to the lower half of their zone where they then can really hit them hard and heavy. And Craw takes game 1 off of a 3-round back and forth. We'll have to see if we get a shakeup. It looks like we are going to... Oops, wrong. It looks like we are going to get a lobby adjustment. So do bear with us as we set up the next round, but off to the races with an exciting game 1 there. Again, locked in by the likes of Craw off of a good back 2 rounds. And I don't think Craw is going to be swapping out that loadout because it worked quite well for them to deny and set up. So really a twofer there with that Nova in particular, doing a lot of work in terms of shutting down the Hurricanes, a lot of the bullet hell, and also, again, forcing Gullible into the bottom half of the zone. If they don't change it, though, Gullible very well could come in here with a bigger shield that could be used to really deny a lot of those Novas. And I think if you throw the larger shield at the proper angle, you can shut down multiple Novas with one shield. So we'll have to see if that is something that comes into play here. Also, I'm trying to think of other good denials for the Nova. I'm sure people have a handful of them in chat, but there are a few ways to sort of get rid of those big health chunks that, as they're coming at you through the middle. Of course, it's a cost in resources, but nonetheless, it'll be exciting to see. We are going to hop into our next game. I'll have to see what that loadout swap does look like from Gullible Man, and I believe that's just a lag test going on here. Not going to swap sides. We'll see, keep Gullible on the blue, but let's take a look at the shakeup here. We have a hammer with the Bull Rush attachment on it, hammer ellipse coming in here on top of the Tundra, Viper Lips, Majestic Nade, and Hurricane staying the same for Gullible. So a little bit of a shakeup in that bullet hell spread that did connect nicely with Craw, maybe trying to play into that element. We'll have to see those. Very similar, if not the exact same loadout from Craw, though. No change up there. Hurricane still coming in for both sides. And there's the Wildcat spread coming in. And finally, a Tundra connects. I think the first Tundra to connect for the likes of Gullible. And you can see Gullible has taken the hammer so that it can not only thread through those Novas, but also obviously do a good chunk of damage to them if they do get too close. Wasted a Viper ellipse shot into that Nova, and it didn't break it with one bullet. So you can just kind of get an idea of how much health is in those Novas as they do come careening towards Gullible Man. There's that full hammer spread setup as they do a little bit of work to deny the hammer from coming in up above them. It does connect on their back shoulder, but it doesn't really matter much simply because of the denial here from Gullible Man, really applying the pressure here, connecting with some of those Vipers and Tundras, and using the hammer and hammer ellipse to really get rid of any Nova setup. There's just no opportunity where that Nova isn't going to get shut down by the hammer, because there's 2 of them now for Gullible. Still, though, the Wildcat Raptor combo has been working well for Croft, and they really have been doing good to chip down at this HP of Gullible, despite this full onslaught that Gullible has been sending their way here in round 1. Oh, and that's a great Majestic nade that does a ton of damage. Zones nicely crossed. Can't connect with any of those ellipses. There's the Viper ellipse as it gets thread underneath the Tundra. Really nice job. Almost utilizing that wall of Novas, against there. Navigating that Viper ellipse around the under half of it. Oops, and I'm on the wrong screen here. Apologies for that, but you can see it over there, small. Around under in the books for the likes of Gullible, and now back to full screen here with Gullible leading the way just a bit out of these first 20 seconds. Again, good denial from that hammer and hammer ellipse coming through here. There's the Nova. Majestic, off to the side. That Nova almost connects, though, with Gullible as it does float gently by. And Gullible has been able to deny 2 of the Novas. There's still one that comes through and does zone somewhat, but doesn't seem that Pra is really utilizing that zoning much. If anything, I think what's been doing almost the most damage for Craw this afternoon is, in fact, those Hurricanes detonating up top. Seems to be kind of catching Gullible off guard, maybe forcing them into positions they don't want to be in. Speaking of, here comes the full salt, and wow, Craw just able to avoid the Tundra and the Hurricane setup as the Hurricane barely skims in front of him. Craw does take a big chunk of damage from a Viper ellipse there, trying to dodge a Majestic nade, though, and here comes the hammer nade up top. That's a big connection against Gullible. Huge damage getting sunken in there, and Craw now has the lead when it was certainly looking like a good bit of zoning was coming in here from Gullible, and none of those Tundras connect, which is impressive. And oh, that is a big hammer that does a huge chunk onto Craw. Oh, that Majestic nade not getting out quite far enough. The full Nova setup not getting disrupted, and Gullible getting zoned to the bottom half for the first time by those Novas. Wasn't able to shut them down with the hammer because they've been using this hammer offensively. Certainly has worked, but unless a Viper connects here, there's not going to be much of a chance for Gullible, and Craw maybe recognizing the threat of that Viper, really getting dancy, if you will, in that last round, as they just try and stay alive. Do tie things up here to a piece, though, and solid bit of back and forth between these 2 players. Really quite a good game here this afternoon amongst Craw and Gullible. There's the full Wildcat Raptor assault, zone to the bottom, and on top of that, some of those Hurricane shots breaking out and contacting Gullible. Big damage to start here for Craw. And now Craw's trying to spice up the direction of those Novas, try and make it a little bit difficult for those hammers to be as effective, but still not an easy task to do. There's that Majestic nade out again and botched again. 2 Majestic nades, maybe even 3 there, that just haven't quite gone where Gullible has needed them to, and it hasn't zoned Craw nearly enough to allow Gullible to really properly set up for this Tundra Viper Ellipse combo that they're trying to sink through here. Craw's going to throw some counter aggression at them to try and disrupt that attack, and it does seem to do enough where Gullible can't connect with that Viper Ellipse or that Tundra. The 2 big damage dealers for Gullible right now. When they did connect last round, they managed to snag one from Craw, but Craw now looking to get 2 games in the books if they can win the back half of this 3rd round here in game 2. Oh, there's a Viper, almost connects. Great back dodge from Craw, just skims up in front of him. Able to shut down the Tundra shots as well, and you can see Craw really utilizing their gun as a shield in a lot of scenarios here, really denying a lot of the bullet hell from coming in by throwing that gun out, shutting down their Hurricane, shutting down even, and seems in some cases, those Tundra shots. Game 2 now into the pocket. I wonder if we're going to get another loadout swap from Gullible here, or if they are going to try their hands at another round going into it. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe just a brief pause between players, too. But either way, an exciting game number 2. Still have a third to be played out. Possibly more if Gullible can find themselves 2 in a row, or at least put up 2 rounds in the series. So far, overall round score 4-2 for Craw. They've done well to come back from what has been 2 leads by Gullible each round. Now we'll see if Gullible can come out swinging here in the start of our game number 3. Truly the back against the wall here this afternoon. And what has been a great series could come to a close in 3 games' time, especially with big hurricanes connecting like that. And interestingly enough, it does seem like the hurricane attachment was changed for Craw. It's not that it's not the split anymore. Oh no, there it is. Excuse me, it is the split. The hurricane just didn't split before it hit Gullible on those last shut-up shots. There you do see it. Split zone, and Gullible able to actually avoid a good chunk of that setup. Connects with the Viper Ellipse. Whether it was the combo of that Majestic Nade and the Viper coming in, who knows? But either way, it does some great work to chip down at Craw. Here comes Craw's full assault, though, and nice job from Gullible to avoid a good chunk of it, but can't quite get the attack they're looking for. Again, good denial of that Tundra bullet with their own gun, throwing it at the Tundra, and then denial of the Hurricane by tossing the shield that way. Still, though, both Hurricanes doing a good job of zoning, and Craw ends up getting forced to the back and connected with a few of those bullets. Oh, and that's a nice, risky field denial of that Majestic Nade. Oh, and charging forward into the zone, almost a battle of both. Oh! Players there as Gullible and Craw step forward into their play spaces and absolutely duke it out, exchanging big blows. Huge hammer that connects there. Interesting to see that hammer actually doing some good damage a couple of times. And oh, a little bit of a surprise Viper swing comes Craw's way. Nice job from Gullible. And again, round 1 into their hands. The 3rd time they've taken the lead here at the start of the game. But you see the score. There's 2 games into Craw's possession right now. And so Craw certainly not going to let up here, as they do get at a potential game point if Gullible can string something together, if Gullible can stay locked in. There's the use of that Hurricane to shoot straight on instead of as a zoning tactic. Ooh, and an interesting way of trying to get some tools out from Craw, you know, forcing that shield, the Majestic Nade, not quite where they wanted it, but full denial there of the Nova with a nice hammer. Able to dodge freely up top and avoid those Raptor Wildcat combos. Doesn't have to crawl to the floor to dodge them. That, of course, depends on the setup here from Craw. Craw really having a tough time getting these Novas to do the work because that hammer always seems to be there. Here's a good case, though, for it. I mean, that was a Tundra and Viper Ellipse used by Gullible, their main damage dealers, to kind of shut down what could have been a nice setup with those Novas coming in. Oh, some of the hammer ellipses end up connecting onto Craw's side there. You have to watch all angles in a game like Blaston. This time the hammer is up, though, for the Novas, so that's going to be completely shut down. Ooh, and a bit of a misfire on that hammer there, as they do have to dodge. They do take a bit of damage, avoiding the Hurricanes coming in from up top. But with 30 seconds left, they are in the lead here. One of our closer rounds to begin with here, and Gullible is absolutely looking at game point if they can string something together here, if they can stay alive, if they can avoid huge chunks of damage in the final moments of this round. There's a Viper Ellipse that connects, gets them right back in it, and what was looking like Craw taking the round is now potentially Gullible. And as I say, that damage gets ticked down on both players to put one or the other at the potential odds, and it looks like Gullible is going to take a game. A 2-round winner there. Managing to scoop out a couple of rounds and avoid damage sent by Craw. I don't think we're going to get a loadout swap from either side here. Again, Gullible losing with this loadout 1 game before, now winning 2 rounds in a row. Very interesting to see, but exciting nonetheless. Game number 4 is what that means. We get a little more Blast on here this afternoon, so no complaints coming in on this end, that's for sure.
2, 1, blast on.
Back to the gameplay we go. Hurricanes come in. Again, denial there. Nicely done by the hammer. Global does take a bit up top. Here comes the full attack. Craw with a nice setup there. That hammer nade doing a good job of zoning Gullible into that onslaught. Using that Aegis shield to deny the Hurricanes from coming in. The Novas to force out the hammer, and then ultimately, what is Gullible left with? The Viper Ellipse and the Tundra, which Craw has been dodging pretty effectively so far this afternoon. Of course, I say that knowing that Gullible has connected nicely with some good bullet hell setups, and oddly enough, they're sitting still for some bullets to connect them in the face. That Nova, the Majestic nade. Again, not finding enough zoning. They're not getting all the way up into the opponent's zone. But good denial of space there, or of that attack from Gullible. There's that Majestic nade again, not exactly zoning out maybe as much as they want. Good dodging from Craw though, and almost jumping to avoid those Tundras in their play space. See that movement, the hands getting thrown up. It certainly looks like a jump. This Nova going to be right in the face of Gullible, but not going to be too much. And that is a good Majestic nade right in the heart. Really limits the movement that Craw has within their space. And I think if Gullible set up more Majestics right in the center, they'd find themselves with a bit more opportunities to connect with the Tundra, to force Craw into some awkward dodging patterns where they would potentially dodge into that Majestic nade and chip away at their HP. But you can see the Majestic nade kind of sits there. Hasn't been accompanied. This is the first time, if anything, that the Tundra is accompanying that Majestic, but Tundra and Viper Ellipse do not connect. Craw takes round one. Now only a round away from securing the series. Both Craw and Gullible coming out here and playing a great bit of back and forth. There's that nice hammer nade, and what a connection. On top of that, the Hurricanes absolutely decimating Gullible with one Viper Ellipse and a Tundra. No, two Viper Ellipses connecting. Things are suddenly back into the hands of Gullible. An absolutely perfect start for Craw that ultimately gets completely shut down by a great setup from Gullible. And there's the full assault, the hammer nade coming in, the Wildcat to push to the bottom of the zone. Gullible does a great job of paying attention to the front and sides as they dodge that setup. Here comes the hammer attack with the Ellipse and the Viper following up. That Viper does connect. Craw takes a huge chunk with that Viper Ellipse, and out comes their turn for the attack. Trying to vary up their Nova positions. Does so enough that it actually doesn't get hit by one of those hammers, and so forces out a Viper shot and a hammer nade, and then Gullible dodges right in to a full hammer nade. Game 3 wrapped up by Craw off of a quick 2 rounds, and they will take the series 3-1. A very exciting matchup to tune into, and unfortunate that we didn't have more folks to stop by for this kind of action, but I do appreciate you that did stop in to catch what was a nice back and forth between Goldman versus Craw. We were scheduled for another game this afternoon. I unfortunately have to drop off of that, so this will be it for us here Saturday afternoon. Do keep the eyes peeled. I might try and hop on a Sunday afternoon game. I'll try and get you guys a little bit more Blaston action throughout the course of the regular season. We also may be setting up times, specific times, where people can schedule their games so that they can get cast, and that way that the players can be prepared in advance for the games to be cast. But we'll look into different systems to try and get more games here. Either way, I appreciate you all stopping by. That'll be it for me. My name's Ben, NightFiree with 2 E's. I will see you next time.